Hi, my name is Jessica, and I'm going to give you a short introduction to scatter plots in Excel. So, one of the things that we do in chemistry is we like to make scatter plots that will show us a relationship between two sets of data. So, in this particular instance, we are going to look at a scatter plot between the natural log of K and 1 over temperature, and the temperature is in Kelvin. So, the first thing that we do is we go to Insert, and then we're going to insert a scatter plot, and we just want with only markers. We don't want anything with lines. So we're going to insert this plot, and you see it's perfectly blank. So then we're going to go up and we're going to select data, and it's going to ask us for the chart data range. So what I'm just going to do is I'm going to highlight uh, these two columns, and then I'm going to hit enter. And it has given me all of this data, which is pretty neat. But it's also given me a lot of things that I don't really want. So the first thing that's done is it's given me this series, and I don't want that, so I just highlight it and click delete. Then the second thing that it's done is it's given me all of these lines, and I think it just looks very cluttered. So I'm going to click on the lines until I can see that there are little dots at the ends of them, and I'm also going to hit delete. And that clears all of that. So one of the other things that we need to do is we need to look at making this make a little bit more sense, because right now we can see that our x-axis connects on the 0 line, and we don't really want it at the top. We want it to be at the bottom like most charts are. So we're going to format the chart area, and we can see this format. You right click on the y-axis and you click format axis. So we have a variety of options. So our axis minimum, I really want it to be at that 8, but the maximum, I don't really want it to be at the 8. So what I'm going to do for the maximum is I'm just going to do -4. And so I'm just going to type in, I'm going to highlight it and type in -4.0. And then I'm going to come down here to where the horizontal axis crosses, and I want it to cross at -8. I'm going to hit enter, and then we see it's reformatted everything, which is pretty nice. And now all of my data fits in here nicely. So now it has given me this title, and I don't like that, so I'm going to retype what I want it to say. And I'm going to type figure 1 made up data, because this is just made up. So now it gives me this nice little title for my figure here. One of the things that you want to do is you want to do a variety of different a variety of different layout options for your chart. One of the things that you want is that chart title, that figure 1, and if you don't have it, you can click on the chart title button, and you can do an above chart title, which it's already there. So we want axis titles as well. So our primary horizontal axis title is going to be below the axis, and this is just going to be the natural log of K. So it puts it in there nicely. And then I also want one for the y-axis. So in the y-axis, I'm going to do the primary vertical axis title, and I'm going to do a horizontal title just for this particular purpose. And actually this one is the natural log of K, and this one is 1 over temperature. I got them backwards, so I'm just going to highlight on it, and then I can type 1 over temperature, and then in Kelvin, and then it pops up nicely. So now we have this table, but what exactly does that do for us? What we want to know is we want to put a line in here called a trend line, so that we can see the relationship between the natural log of K and 1 over temperature. So I'm going to click the button that says trend line, and I want a linear trend line. And it puts it in there nicely, which is great. But there's also some other things that we want to do with that trend line. So I'm going to click back up here, and I'm going to go to more trend line options. And at the bottom, there is this display equation on chart and display R squared value on chart. And I want those things. It's kind of not in a great spot, so I'm going to move that up. And so this line, it's basically it's the slope of this line. And so we have y equals -6615.1 x plus 16.675. And what that means is that for every value of x, for every 1 over temperature that we put in here, it's going to give us the natural log of K if we fill this equation. And the R squared value is basically how the closer that number is to 1, the more accurate your data fits this line. So this is the easy way to do a scatter plot. The hard way is when you don't have your data in nice columns. I'm sorry, in corresponding columns. So in this particular instance, I have 1 over temperature in this column, the natural log of K in this column, which is different than in this one where I had 1 over temperature and the natural log of K right next to each other. So the column on your left will always be your x-axis, and the column on your right will always be the y-axis if they're right next to each other. But if they're not, such as in this one, it makes it a little bit trickier. So again, I'm going to go here and I'm going to insert a scatter plot, and then I'm going to select data. So it's going to ask me to select the chart data range, just like in the first example, except what I'm going to do is I'm going to click on this button here. I click on the Legend Entry Series button, and I'm going to add a series. I'm not going to add a series name, but now it asks me for the X values. So I'm going to click on that button. I'm going to highlight what do I want for my X values. I want 1 over temperature for my X values. So I'm going to highlight that, click Enter, and then it asks me for the Y values. Again, I'm going to click on that, go over here to my natural log of K. I'm going to highlight those and click Enter. And then I'm going to click OK, and then OK again. And it has not given me anything that I wanted. So I'm thinking that I did this wrong. So if you do this wrong, you can actually just go to the Select Data button again, and you can say, what did I do wrong? And you can remove everything and start again. So I'm going to start again. I'm going to take my X values, do these and hit Enter. Oh, and that looks a little bit better. Those are my decimals. And then I'm going to do my Y values. Go over here, highlight these, and hit Enter. Now this chart looks a little bit better. So again, I'm going to hit OK, and hit OK again. Still formatting issues. I'm going to delete the series name. I'm going to delete these lines, and then I'm going to rescale my axes again. So I'm going to, oops, that didn't highlight just the axes. That highlighted the entire thing. Now the axes are highlighted. I'm going to format the axes. Again, the maximum value that I want is this -4, and then my horizontal axis I want to cross at the bottom, which is -8. So I'm just going to click OK, and now it's a little bit more accurate. And again, I'm going to go up to the layout, and I'm going to add in a chart title. And I'm going to do the above chart, and it's my Figure 1 made up data. And then I can do the axes titles, the primary horizontal. I want below the axis. And what did we decide this was? We decided that this is 1 over temperature in Kelvin. And then on the vertical axis, we're going to do a vertical title this time. So this is the natural log of K, and you can see that that really looks terrible. So I'm just going to change my vertical axis title to be a horizontal title, and then it looks nice. So again, we want the trend line, so we go here and we make a linear trend line, and then we can go to more trend line options, set the display equation and the display r² value, and then we're going to close them. You can move that as long as you highlight it. You just click on, oops, did the wrong thing. So now we just click the undo button, which is great. It's a very useful button. So I'm going to click on this, and I'm going to move it up so that it's not in the way. And then one of the things that you want to do with figures is you actually want to size them so that they take up about a page. You generally want a figure on its own page. So I'm looking at this, and I'm not really sure what's going on, but I'm going to go to print. I can see that it doesn't quite take up the entire page. It's wide enough, but it's not high enough. So I'm going to go back to the home. I'm going to click on it again. I'm going to go down here, and I'm going, oops, I don't want that. Sometimes my trackpad does some very strange things for me. I apologize. So I make that a little bit bigger. It looks like it's taken up most of the space. I'm going to go back to print, and it looks like it takes up just about everything. So this is the point at which I would print. So you can see that there's 2 different ways to do scatter plots. One, the easier way, where your columns are nicely next to each other, and one, the harder way, where your columns are not next to each other, but it is still possible to put your data in there however you'd like. I hope this helps, and thank you.